All right, it is time. It is time. It's the big one for Saturday night, live and direct from Salt Lake City in Utah. Leon Edwards finally gets the opportunity to realize a lifelong dream. The platform, well, that is the main event of UFC 278. The final challenge, well, that comes in the form of widely regarded pound for pound best fighter in the world, Kamaru Usman. And the prize, well, that just so happens to be the coveted UFC Welterweight Championship of the world. Now, I just want a few minutes of your time. I just want a few minutes of your time, baby, because I want to tell you guys why I think Leon Edwards comes out on Saturday night, stroke Sunday morning, if you're in Britain, with his hand raised. But before I do that, my name's Rahul J. Chand. This is the Battle Camp. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're new to the channel, please do consider subscribing. Now, look, before I talk about the fight, I just want to kind of consider the wider context that this fight falls in, because they're calling this Kamaru Usman against Leon Edwards 2. But they fought 7 years ago, and if you have a think about what type of fighter both of these men were back then, you had Kamaru Usman, that was a grappler wrestler with limited striking, and you had Leon Edwards, who was a striker with limited grappling and wrestling. Fast forward 7 years, and both of these men are completely different fighters. They're both extremely well-rounded, elite mixed martial artists. Like, nothing is the same when it comes to comparing both of these fighters the first time they fought to now. Now, I kind of positioned the beginning of this video talking about Leon Edwards and why I think he wins this fight, right? And I think it's important to kind of take into consideration his journey in the UFC, because he's been around for 7-8 years or whatever it's been for him within the organization. But the last 2 or 3 years have been especially challenging. And I'm not talking about him in the octagon. I'm talking about everything that comes with being a UFC fighter, everything that's happened to him outside of the octagon. I'm talking about the bad luck when he had his main event fight against Tyron Woodley in London '02 cancelled a week prior because of the Rona. I'm talking about him being given a title shot on a 1 or 2 weeks notice in Fight Island that he turned down. I'm talking about him being removed from the rankings as a result of turning down, I don't know if it was that particular fight or a fight subsequent to that. I'm talking about him almost being kind of forced to accept a fight with Khamzat when nobody else wanted to, right? And he did it, and that fight got booked 2 or 3 times, and that never came to fruition. I'm talking about him fighting Bilal Muhammad again on short notice and schooling him and beating him handedly. And then obviously that fight getting called off because of an eye poke, so it's a no contest, right? I'm talking about all of the challenges that he's had to face. I'm talking about him being undeniable, him always being adamant that he is deserving of a title shot, and finally coming to a place now where he's a couple of sleeps away from stepping into the octagon against Kamaru Usman. Now, Leon Edwards often gets criticized, right? He gets criticized for 2 things. He's always moaning. He's always demanding a title shot. But who is he beat in the top 5? Who is he beat in the top 5? Which notable title challenger or someone that is good enough to challenge for a title, I should say? Who is he actually beat? Which one of those guys have actually wanted to fight him is what I say. Who's actually wanted to fight him? Who's actually said, apart from Khamzat, you know what, Leon Edwards, I'll fight you, mate. Like, he's been there on the sidelines calling out name after name after name. Nobody's just been interested in fighting him. And one of the reasons why people don't want to fight him is because they criticize his personality. He's boring. He don't know how to talk on the mic. And again, I don't see that, man. I don't see that. Like, when I listen to his interviews, when I see him in press conferences, yeah, he doesn't come out with these catchy phrases and insults to his opponents. But one thing that I do see is a man that's genuine, confident in his abilities, and someone that isn't delusional, doesn't live with his head in the clouds. Someone that is true to himself. And if you follow my channel, if you watch my videos, you know that I always say I gravitate towards fighters that are being true to themselves and aren't playing a character. As the doorbell goes, thank you for ruining this video. But like that is why I'm a fan of Leon Edwards. Apart from the fact, obviously, he's a fellow Brit, but just as a personality outside of the octagon, I respect him and I respect his skill set inside the octagon. All right, so now we're finally here. He gets this opportunity, and the man he's facing, Kamaru Usman. Now, look, I started this video by saying I feel as though Leon Edwards is going to win, and I'll explain that a bit later on. But let's just talk about Kamaru Usman for a little while, because Kamaru Usman is a man that has grown in confidence, a man that has shown that he is a deserving champion, a man that has beaten all challengers that have come his way, a man that won the belt in the first place against Tyron Woodley in a dominant way, a man that hasn't really looked like a man that has been in difficult situations in his title defenses, but he's never really looked like he's on the brink of defeat. Like, even when he's been knocked down, you think to yourself, oh, no, there's still a long way to go in this fight. I'm talking about the fight against Gilbert Burns. Even when he was hurt against Kobe Covington in both fights, he had done a lot of damage himself by the point he got hurt. Do you know what I mean? So we've never really seen a time where Kamaru Usman's been on the back foot and it's been like, oh shit, this might be the time, this might be the one that he loses. But in this journey, in this time of seeing Kamaru Usman as a champion, I have to say, like, I feel like I don't quite know how to verbalize this, right? I struggle to connect with Kamaru Usman, I suppose, is probably the best way of putting it. Because, look, let's be honest, man. The wardrobe is something that really kind of baffles me, right? And it's quite funny because I was watching his media day interview and he was talking about how he's not interested in going to New York to watch Khamzat against Nate Diaz because it'll be fashion week. And I get it. He's a fashion guy, innit? And I'm not. But I know what looks stupid and what doesn't, right? And one thing that really looked stupid was when he was calling out Canelo for a boxing match. Now, I don't know whether that speaks to his confidence or whether that was just a money grab or whether he's crossed that thin line between confidence and delusion. But the way, I suppose, the point I'm trying to make is the way he carries himself and the performances he's put into the octagon, I can't reconcile the two. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is, to me, it feels as though he thinks he's better than he is. To me, it feels as though he's believing his own hype to an extent. Now, I've mentioned all of the challenges he's had as a champion, but as a champion, and I'm going to look at his Wikipedia page here before I lie to you guys, but as a champion, he's really only faced 3 challenges. Like, he's defended this title 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. But he's only faced 3 opponents in those 5 fights. Kobe Covington, Jorge Masvidal, and Gilbert Burns. And I feel as though Leon Edwards has attributes that pose Kamaru Usman more problems than those other 3 men were capable of. Let me explain. Jorge Masvidal in the first fight had no cardio, but he just got held against the cage and manhandled. Kamaru Usman was just physically stronger than Jorge Masvidal. Gilbert Burns was a man that he had moments of success, but lost essentially a striking match with Kamaru Usman. And Kobe Covington just didn't have the power to hurt Usman enough to stop Usman from coming forward. Both fights. That's a very, very, very limited way of describing that fight, but we're not here to talk about Kobe. I'm here to talk about Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. What I feel like Leon Edwards brings to the table different to these guys is obviously his height, his length. I feel as though he might not have the same type of power that Masvidal does, but I do feel as though he's a much more dynamic striker. If Kamaru Usman does try to close the distance and does try to wrestle and grapple with Edwards, I feel as though Leon is stronger physically to not get caught in the positions that Jorge Masvidal was finding himself in. Now, obviously, you'd have to say, for good reason, that Kamaru Usman is the favorite. You'd have to say that if you kind of evaluate Leon Edwards' performances in the past and Kamaru Usman's performance in the past, probability would suggest that Kamaru Usman wins this fight as well. Like, he's not regarded as the pound for pound best fighter in the world for no reason. Now, I am very willing to admit that I might be letting my emotions and feelings towards wanting Leon Edwards to win to dictate my prediction that he is going to win, right? I'm very open to admitting that. But I do feel as though Leon Edwards isn't getting the level of respect he deserves going into this fight. I feel as though he poses a legitimate threat to Kamaru Usman. And I feel as though Leon Edwards is very capable of causing the upset. Now, when Kamaru Usman does close the distance, and if he manages to get Leon Edwards against the cage fence, that will tell a lot in terms of how Leon Edwards is able to react to that, whether he's able to spin out and kind of disengage from Kamaru Usman's grip, or whether he just isn't able to physically do it, whether that's because of a lack of technique or a lack of strength. But that will kind of tell us a lot in terms of this fight, because the first time they fought, Usman was closing the distance, getting him against the cage, and then eventually securing the takedown. Now, I don't for one second believe that the takedown will be nearly as easy for Kamaru Usman, but I do feel as though he'll have opportunities to hold Leon Edwards against the cage. Now, if Leon Edwards is able to disengage and throw one of them fucking faster than bullet elbows that he throws, then that might be one of the kind of one of the narratives of the fight. Do you know what I mean? But I'm very excited. I'm very interested, and like I've said about 3 or 4 times already, I'm predicting that Leon Edwards comes away as a champion of the world. Like, for me personally, it would be really nice to see him win, just from the point of view as a British MMA fan, right? Because although we had Bisping in the past, and this is by no means a criticism of Michael Bisping, but when he won it, he went to America to train, right? And he had to. In them days, he had to, because there just wasn't the facility. We don't have the facilities. We didn't have the facilities over here at that time. And to see a man come up in that same gym with all brummy coaches, well, they've got a game plan and we've got a game plan, and whoever game plan is better will win, is what one of his coaches said in Embedded the other day. I was watching, I think it's the 3rd episode. But like, to watch these kinds of guys train a fighter, take him from just a 17-year-old that walked into an MMA gym off the streets to this point, the brink of being the best in the world. If they get it over the line, it will just be a nice feeling for me personally to see that journey of a British MMA gym training someone from scratch and taking them to the summit of the UFC, the pinnacle. But you can probably tell by my voice, you can probably tell that I'm really, really, really excited about this fight. And yeah, I predict Leon Edwards to win, but I genuinely want this guy to win this belt, man. I really, really, really want him to win. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. Like, Saturday's a big day, man. Saturday's a big day for British combat sports, because not only have we got Edwards against Usman let me rephrase that. Not only have we got Usman against Edwards 2, we've also got Usyk against AJ, Anthony Joshua 2, where he's also the underdog, and he's going in there to reclaim this time his unified heavyweight championship of the world. So it's just a big day for British combat sports, man. And then obviously, how can I forget? We've got the real big one, which is MVP Michael Venom Page against Mike Perry in a bare knuckle boxing match in Wembley, London on Saturday too. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about the stuff that I've said in this video. And again, look, I'm gonna hold my hands up. I know I'm being biased, but I'm a fan of the sport at the end of the day. We all have our favorite fighters, and Leon Edwards happens to be one of my favorites. And I want to see him succeed. I want to see him win. And that's why I'm predicting that he's going to win on Saturday night. I think I've already put a bet on it, but it's part of an accumulator merged with a few football matches. Now that I'm back in love with a beautiful game, because Arsenal are en route to winning the Premier League for the first time in 15 years or something. But anyway, I digress. Let me know what you guys think about the stuff that I've said in this video. Feel free to respond to anything. Feel free to raise your own points about this fight in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed this video, please do share it with a friend. If you haven't subscribed yet and you got to this point of this video 15 minutes in, what the hell are you waiting for? Please do subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on Sunday or Monday maybe, where I talk about how great it was to watch Leon Edwards dismantle Kamaru Usman at UFC 278 to become and the new Leon Edwards. All right, I'll catch you guys next time. Ciao for now. Ciao, Bella.